Quite often when we feel that God is trying to change something in our lives, the first thing we do is say, oh God, that's too hard, I can't do that. But the truth is, God never asks you to do anything that He will not enable you to do. So cooperate with God so you can have the changes you really need. You know, God promises to turn things around in our lives, but there's action that we must take. In Joshua chapter 1, Moses had died, and Joshua was the man that God had chosen to take over. And I love what the Bible says. It says that God said to Joshua, Moses is dead. Now, you arise and take the people across the Jordan. Now listen to this. And every place on which the sole of your foot treads, that have I already given unto you. So here's the way I see it. God has given us everything that we need to live a blessed life through Christ. But you're not going to have it just by sitting around murmuring and saying, well, something needs to change. He said, every place that you put your foot, that is ground that I have already given unto you. Jesus has already done everything that needs to be done. We've got to get off of our holy little pews and say, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm not going to live the way I've been living. Something needs to change, and I'm going to do everything that I can do to change it. How many of you see the difference between that and just, well, something needs to change? Something needs to change. Go to lunch with your friends. Something needs to change. I just can't take this anymore. I'm telling you what, I'm just sick and tired of this and sick and tired of life the way it is. Go home, pull the covers up over your head and get depressed. Well, God, something needs to change. I just can't take this anymore, God. Something needs to change. Do you see what a trap that is? All things become new. You say, well, I don't know what to do. Change your mind. That's the first thing you got to do, change your mind. Second thing you got to do is change your attitude. Don't waste one more day of your life in self-pity, whining about something that's already done and you can't do anything about it. We have problems all over the world today. Every nation has needs. The enemy is on the move, and he's trying to get God out of everything. Everything. He's trying to get God out of everything. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little protective of God's reputation. Come on. I said, I'm feeling a little bit protective of God's reputation. I believe that we represent God. We are His personal ambassadors, His representatives in the earth, and we cannot just sit back and say something needs to change. They need to do something. They need to not do that. You say, well, what can I do? You know what? If you start asking God what you can do, how many of you believe He'll probably tell you? Half the time we just want to sit around and complain that we don't know what to do, but we never ask God what we can do. You start asking God in your marriage what you can do. Stop just blaming it on the other person all the time and thinking about what you say, God, what can I do? I know that you can work. I want to sow my seed. What can I do, God, to make this situation better? Come on, will you do that no matter how bad your situation is at home? Will you do that? Will you pray today and say, God, if you'll show me something I can do, I'll do that. Amen? You look at your bills and you just feel overwhelmed and you think, oh, what can I do? Ask God. What can I do? You know, He might say something nifty like stop buying stuff. Uh-oh. Oh, well, moving on. I love Isaiah chapter 60, verse 1. Arise. Get up from the depression and the prostration that circumstances have kept you in. Arise and shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. You know what arise means? Get up and do something. Don't just sit somewhere and look at the mess. You know, those dishes to do. pile of laundry, house a mess, the kids are a mess, the marriage is a mess. I'm a mess, I've gained 40 pounds, I don't feel good. God, you need to do something. Come on, I'm having too much fun today. Huh? Well, God, you need to do something. You know, when we had the 9/11 attack, one of the more well-known talk show hosts said, well, where was God on September the 11th? And Dave said, where you put him, out of everything. You know? I mean, we want to ignore God, then when we get in trouble, we want to know, well, where's God at? Amen? There's a lot of things I can't do. But I use that excuse a lot of my life. And I finally realized that miracles come in cans, not in can'ts. And if you'll just do what you can do, God will do what you cannot do. I'm not finished saying that because you haven't got it yet. If you will do what you can do, pray and ask God, what can I do about my finances? Don't just sit around and pray for a miracle. You know, miracles are great, but really, a lot of times what we're asking for is for us to not have to do anything to undo the mess that we have gotten ourselves into. And now we want God to come along and just make it all okay so we can go do it all over again. Come on. You know, God wants us to pay the price to do what we need to do to undo the messes that we got ourselves in. Because when we pay the price, then we're a lot more likely not to repeat that mistake again. Amen? Dave and I one time had credit card debt up beyond our eyeballs, and when we realized we needed to get out of debt and only use those credit cards for a convenience and to pay them off at the end of every month, not be putting stuff on them that we couldn't pay for, we had to go several years, very lean years, trying to pay those credit cards off. But you know what? I remember that, and I prayed for a miracle, but I didn't get one. What I had to do was pay my bills. And I had to do without some stuff while I was paying my bills. But you know what? From that day till this, we've never run those credit cards back up again. And you know what would have happened if God would have just come along and we would have done it all over again. And some of you are wondering why you're not getting your miracle. You're not waiting on God, honey. God's waiting on you. We need to do what we can do. God will do what we cannot do. Judges chapter 6. We're going to look at just a few people here in the Bible. The Israelites cried out to God. Judges chapter 6, verse 6. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites, and the Israelites cried out to God. And when they cried to the Lord because of Midian, the Lord sent a prophet to the Israelites who said to them, Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I brought you up out of Egypt, and I brought you forth out of the house of bondage. And I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of all who oppressed you, and I drove them out from before you, and I gave you their land. And I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Fear not the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell, but you have not obeyed my voice. Wow. So God's just saying, okay, you got a mess, but if you would have listened to me to start with, you wouldn't have the mess you're in now. Can we at least give God that today? And as a nation, we would not be in the messes we're in right now if we would have been listening to God the whole time. Now the angel of the Lord came and sat under an oak tree which belonged to Joash, and his son Gideon was beating wheat in the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, The Lord is with you, you mighty man of fearless courage. Well, not. I don't think so. He was hiding and shrinking from everything. But you see, God calls you what he knows you can be. Come on, I said, God calls you what he knows you can be, not what you are. He was very willing to change Jacob's name. And Gideon said, I bet God gets tired of this. Well, sir, if you've been with us, then why is all this stuff happening to us? You know what it sounds like? Well, God, I just don't know where you are. And where are all of his wondrous works of which our fathers told us, saying, did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has forsaken us and given us into the hand of Midian. And the Lord turned to him and said, go in this your might, and you shall save Israel from the hand of Midian. Have I not sent you? Verse 15, and Gideon said, oh Lord, how can I deliver Israel? Now here we go. My clan is the poorest of all the clans, and I am the least in my father's house. Verse 16, and the Lord said to him, surely I will be with you, and you shall smite the Midianites as one man. So here God picks the biggest coward he can find. Why am I talking about this? Because you never know what God is likely to ask you to do.
That's right, yes.
And you need to believe that with God you can do anything. You really don't understand what my life was like when God called me to do this. You really don't have any idea what a tremendously huge joke this is. I mean, you just don't get it. If you really understood, you could laugh for the next 2 weeks. It's like, I have one thing, a mouth, and a big one. And God decided to use it. I don't have the natural education. I'm not even really sure I've got the right personality. I don't know. I mean, I'm just like, well, here it is. But I am living proof that whatever God hooks up with, he makes it work. God has given me favor. And God will give you favor. He wanted to give Gideon favor, and Gideon kept looking at what he was not. Stop telling God what you're not and look at who he is. Come on, if you guys push me, I'm going to run around this building. I'm getting excited. God needed someone, just one person, who would stand up and say, we can do this. People need leadership. Your children need leadership. They don't need to see you being depressed and discouraged and in self-pity all the time, talking about what you can't and what you're not. They need to see you be courageous and to say, we can do anything through Christ who strengthens us. We can take back what the enemy has stolen. Samuel was so disappointed when Saul failed. And in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 1, it says that Samuel was mourning over the loss of Saul. And God said to him, how long will you mourn? I have chosen another man. See, while we're mourning what we've lost, God's already got a new plan. Are you there? I said, while we're mourning what we've lost, God has already got a new plan. I said, while we're mourning what we've lost, God has already got a new plan. You say, well, Joyce, I just been so down because I lost my job. Well, God's got a new plan. God's got a better one for you. Get your mouth in agreement with him. Get up every day and say, God's got a better job for me. God has got a better job for me. Don't go and say, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. God, you need to do something. You need to do something. You need to do something. While you're waiting for that job to come through, go clean the trash out of your yard. Wash your car. Go help a widow. Carry her groceries in. Do something lest you do nothing. I think the biggest curse in the world is inactivity. 2 Kings chapter 7. Verse 3. This is a really good story. Now 4 men who were lepers sat at the entrance of the city's gate. And they said to one another, "Why do we just sit here until we die?" Whew. I think there's a whole bunch of you need to have that conversation with yourself. You know, like, "Hello, Joyce, are we just going to sit here till we die?" Come on. Verse 4, "If we say we will enter the city, well, there's a famine in the city, and we're going to die there. And if we sit here, we're going to die. So now, come." And they decided to do an absolutely stupid, unthinkable thing. They decided to go to the enemy's camp and see if they could get some food. Then they said, if they kill us, we're just dead. But we're dead if we sit here. We're dead if we go into our city. So we might as well do something. Come on. We might as well do something, lest we just keep sitting around doing nothing all of our lives. And God did a miracle. They did what they could do, and God did what they couldn't do. And all they did was get up and get moving. Some of you, if you would just get up in the morning and go, "Maybe, God, I can do one dish. I don't know." All right, watch this. Verse 5, "So they arose in the twilight and went to the Syrian camp." They walked into the enemy's camp. But when they came to the edge of the camp, nobody was there. For the Lord had made the Syrian army to hear a noise of chariots and horses, the noise of a great army, and they said to one another, "The king of Israel has hired Hittites and Egyptian kings to come and kill us." So the Syrians rose up and ran away in the night and left everything they had in their tents, and the 4 lepers came in and took everything they had. Yeah. And you know why? Because they just said, are we just going to sit here and die? I finally had to say to myself, am I just going to sit here and go to a pity party every day? Am I just going to sit here with a bad attitude, feeling like a victim all my life? Am I just going to sit around and cry, hoping God will feel sorry for me, which He doesn't? Yes, He keeps our tears in a bottle, and He cares about our pain. But He also knows that pity is not power. You can be pitiful or you can be powerful, but you're not going to be both. So I finally decided I'm going to get up and do something. I don't know what, but I'm going to do something. I'm not going to sit here anymore and have a bad attitude. I'm going to do something. All you got to do is get moving. Does something need to change, or do you need to change something? Come on. I said, does something need to change, or do you need to change something? If you're not happy with your schedule, change it. If you got too many commitments, change it. If you don't like your marriage, change something. And I don't mean go trade in and get another one. That's not what I mean. If you hate your job, start looking for another one. Or get a new attitude where you're at. If your kids don't mind, then start making them mind. If you're in debt, start getting out of debt. And don't ever say again, well, something needs to change. From now on, I want you to say, I'm going to change something. I'm not going to live like this. Something is going to change. And I'm the one that's going to change it. Now listen, I'm not going to go to these scriptures, but I'm going to tell you this and then we're going to close. Zacchaeus was a man in the Bible that was short. He just kind of had a disadvantage in life because he was short. And one day Jesus was passing by, and he heard that he was coming, and he so much wanted to see Jesus. But there was a big crowd, and he was short. Well, you know, he didn't just sit down and say, man, I'll tell you, if I just wasn't short, I guess I just won't ever see Jesus. I'm just too short. Well, God, I just don't understand why I had to be born short. God, somebody needs to do something. Come on now. But here's what he did. He looked around. Jesus is coming. He's almost here. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And all of a sudden, he saw a tree. And he ran over and he climbed the tree. And now he had a better seat than anybody in the house. He did something, and all of a sudden being short didn't matter anymore. Now, here comes Jesus walking by. And why in the world would he suddenly? Because something about Zacchaeus' spirit was drawing his spirit. He looked up and he said, this is what he said, come on down here, I'm going to go to your house for dinner. Not only did he get to see Jesus, he took him to his house for dinner. Come on. Come on. You have no idea what you can do with God. Forget your past. Forget about all your can'ts and get into your cans. You stop just looking at your mess and having a pity party. You say, God, what can I do? You show me what I can do. Is there a tree I need to climb? I'm going to climb it.
You mean more to us at Joyce Meyer Ministries than you may ever know. We appreciate you, and we thank our friends and partners for making this worldwide ministry possible. Together, we're feeding the hungry, clothing the poor, and presenting the gospel to the nations. Please contact us or visit joycemeyer.org today to share your prayer requests, find out more about our resources, see Joyce's conference schedule, and to join us in partnership as we share the love of Christ around the globe.
The proceeding was paid for by the friends and partners of Joyce Meyer Ministries.